Support everything we do at MWP News by visiting co-fi.com/MWP News. Every donation helps us stay independent. For breaking entertainment news, reviews, and more, check out MWPnews.com. If you love games, head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@MWPNewsGaming for reviews and gameplay. Links for all of this will be in the show notes, as well as links to the other podcasts. Thank you for your continued support. Good evening and welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. On this, it is Thursday, September 11th. Yesterday was a bit of a big news day. We are not going to talk about that, though. We are going to talk about a different thing that is also bad. As, you probably know from the show, we typically don't do these in the middle of the week if it's good news. It's not like, hey guys, you see how great everything is now? No, we don't typically do that. Typically it's something that is like, we need to, pull the fire alarm, this is a 5-alarm fire, that kind of thing. And I hear that phrase get thrown around a lot by pundits and stuff like that, but we are very much in a dangerous time. This is something that I've talked about a lot. We talked about it when we talked about Paramount, we talked about it, other things like that. But this week, today specifically, news broke that crossed a line. And that news is that Paramount is exploring acquiring Warner Brothers. If you listen to this show, you probably know these are two of the largest film distribution companies on the planet. The two of them are also massive television distributors. They own a lot of networks. And let's break through why in normal times this would not be allowed. For starters, let's look at the Disney and Fox acquisition, which led to hundreds of layoffs because of redundancies. This is something that in normal times is taken into consideration. How many jobs will be eliminated because you don't need to have two marketing departments, you don't need to have two distribution, two PR, to all of these departments within them. How many of them are going to be eliminated because of that? How many, movies or shows will not be made because of self-dealing and other things of that nature? And that is kind of one of the concerns here, is that, if Warner Brothers is now suddenly, this big company, or if Paramount is not a big company also owns Warner Brothers, there's a lot of stuff that will not need to happen because it's all under one umbrella. And that comes with consolidation of newsrooms, because there's no reason to have a CNN newsroom and a CBS newsroom. It's all under one roof now. What about Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, both of which exist, and then which one will take the branding? Will both coexist and we'll just pretend that it's two different companies? Wouldn't surprise, it's all owned by the same guy. Who knows? That's one thing. The other thing is something that's going to affect everyone, even though it's going to sound like it's only going to affect a few. We talk about sports on the show occasionally. We don't talk about the specifics of sports or why the Giants suck this year or anything like that. We talk about how sports affect the entertainment space, how regulation or lack thereof affect everything else that we watch and are able to consume. Sports very much has a massive impact on our television prices. Because sports is the biggest way for companies to make advertising money, the Super Bowl, major events, major championship events, all-star games, things like that. These are major ratings drivers that they can sell big money ads during. These are huge driving forces that need to be, that should be regulated in some way. But we have some regulation, but we'll talk about that. That's another thing to talk about entirely. In this case, right now, Paramount, through CBS and its subsidiaries, has the rights to a lot of PGA events. The Masters, the PGA Championship, and a bunch of other PGA events. which is merging with Live, which is another golf league co-owned by the Saudis, and I think Trump has something to do with that too. But you have the PGA, and you have a lot of PGA major tentpole events. You have NCAA March Madness, including the NCAA basketball final, is broadcast on CBS. Some of the other games, like when I watch and I go to see what Albany's up to in these tournaments, I gotta watch it on TBS or TNT or True TV. But these are things that these are not on what's it called, they're also elsewhere. CBS also has football. CBS has, the AFC games and select others that play throughout the regular season, plus select playoff games, and they're part of the cycle for the Super Bowl, the 3-network cycle for the Super Bowl. They have UFC now because of a sketchy deal that has been signed with Trump at the helm. Let's see, hang on, what else do they have? I started working on this. They also have, they don't have basketball, they don't have MLB, they don't have hockey. That's really it. Which is a lot. Like, that's a lot of weight to be able to throw around, and it's something that gives Paramount a good bargaining chip, because it's like, hey, we have control of the AFC games that are playing during the week. We not the Thursday night game, which is on Amazon, not the Monday night game, which is on ESPN, not the Sunday night game that's on NBC, but we have the 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock AFC games, at least one, if not both of those slots on any given Sunday. And then also, if you want to watch golf, you got to come to us or NBC. Or if you want to watch, if you want to watch, who was the other one? If you want to watch the NCAA tournament, you got to watch it through us. Oh, they also have select college football. I think they have big concerts with the Big Ten. But either way, they have all of that. On the other hand, right now, Warner Bros. Doesn't have a huge sports catalog. They don't have a ton of games. They have TNT and TBS, which does have some, but it's not a ton. They have some hockey through that contract. They have some baseball through that contract. And, because like I said, TNT and TBS, they have the entire rest of the NCAA tournament that doesn't air on CBS or a CBS affiliate. Which leaves them in a place where it's like, so how can we do that? Like, what do we do here? And now if these two were to merge, that would create an undue system where they could then strong-arm the carriers, your DirecTVs, your Comcasts, your Cablevision, your whoever you have as your cable provider. They could strong arm and be like, hey, pay us more money, or we will we'll cut off your service. And if we cut off your service, your subscribers are going to be angry and they'll go with someone else. Which will jack up our cable prices for everyone, regardless if you like sports or not. It's going to bring up everyone's prices. Then you have, what's the other one that they have? Let's talk about their network portfolios. Like, this is a massive network portfolio that they would be acquiring as Warner Brothers Discovery, because they already have like MTV and the MTV affiliate networks. They already have, CBS and all that. They'd be acquiring CNN. They would be acquiring Cartoon Network and the Cartoon Network affiliates, Adult Swim and other network and Boomerang and stuff like that. They would be acquiring the Discovery networks like American Heroes Channel, like Discovery, like Magnolia Network, like the Food Network, like HGTV. All of these things would now be under the banner of, because let's be clear, we don't know specifically what's being acquired. If it's Warner Brothers, because right now Warner Brothers Discovery is also trying to divest itself into two separate companies. If they're just trying to buy Warner Brothers, that is slightly better, because Discovery is meant to be a divestiture of the terrestrial TV networks. So that would not include the TV networks. It would just be the theatrical side of things and the HBO, which is still a problem because HBO and Max, we'll get into streaming in a minute, or HBO and HBO Max, is also a huge part of why this is a problem. But that's the other thing. And on top of that, too, it's like both of them already have their own premium cable networks in the form of HBO and Showtime. So what happens there? And then let's get to the streaming side of things. So the streaming side of things does need to be addressed. Right now, the largest, from what I saw in a cursory glance, and again, this is all, I did cursory research in the last 2 hours while I was at work. I don't know how, 100% accurate this is, but from what I saw, and I saw it backed up by other sources, not generative AI, I actually went to actual websites. Right now, the largest market share is Amazon Prime. Because I think Amazon Prime is, I don't know how many people actually use Prime Video, but Amazon Prime has the largest market share, followed by Netflix, that's 21%. And then after that is, I think after that is a combined Disney plus Hulu, which they're still registered as two different streamers because the merger hasn't fully gone through yet. The combination of these two into one entity would make it where the overwhelming majority of streamers are owned by four companies: Disney, Netflix, Amazon, and now Paramount. And this is a problem. And let's get into why this is a problem, because I feel like that's kind of the thing that gets lost. You're probably, on top of the price aspect of it, because the price aspect is the thing that's going to affect most people on a day-to-day basis. It's like, okay, well, if they're going to jack up the prices, I guess won't get it anymore. Okay, that's fine. But here's the thing. All of these networks being owned by one person, we have seen this administration try to control media. Not just by controlling, the news or trying to stew the news into oblivion or anything like that. We've also seen them try to control what's being shown in movies. There's this weird special envoy appointed to Hollywood. There's this weird, this whole thing with the Kennedy Center and appointing himself head of the board of governors of the Kennedy Center. These are all things that are very strange. And then the insertion of the sports, the idea that he's going to be the chair of the Olympic Committee. Why? Sure, why not for 2028? The weird marriage of convenience of Tiger Woods and his daughter? Is it his daughter or his granddaughter? Either way, bizarre. The UFC deal. The UFC deal with Paramount is bizarre. Paramount signs an overall exclusive deal with UFC, and then immediately after, the UFC gets to have this huge marquee event on the White House lawn with a cage match on the 4th of July, which is just the single most white trash sentence I've ever heard in the history of humanity. There's this desire, and then on top of that too, when you take into consideration the broader conservative movement's desire to control what books are being read, what books are being published, what's being said on college campuses, what's being said in classrooms, and that kind of thing. When you look at that more broadly, that is a larger, that is a larger, it's part of a larger pattern we're seeing. And a pattern we've seen before, because this is the same pattern that was used in Russia as Putin was ascending to power and taking control over the course of the 2000s and even into the present. The way he did that was consolidating the media, because you may not be able to control the media entirely, but if you control enough of it because it's run by your friends and make it more friendly, it'll help. So, it was already a problem that Zaslav ran him because Zaslav is buddy-buddy with him. Well, that was already a problem. And it's okay, this guy runs CNN, so will CNN pull punches, and will CNN not do the rigorous reporting that we're used to or should expect from a major, whatever. We're not going to get into that. And the question is, kinda, maybe, but, the issue is, if we're looking at what this means, these steps that have been taken to clear out quote-unquote bias from the CBS newsroom that will be continued into a presumed CBS CNN newsroom is perilous. And then not only that, but now we have a situation where one of the largest companies that's going to be producing media for kids is owned by someone who is very much in line with this administration. The Redstone family, who now owns, Paramount, is very much working with this administration to further its means, which is why, and I know it was on all the games, but I had a visceral reaction to that ad that the Department of Homeland Security played before the football games and during the football games. I was like, what are we doing here? And it's like, so now this is also going to go into, what's it called? Now this is also going to go into, CNN and these networks. It's like, what can we do about this? And I said, when I said we were going to stop covering Paramount content, it's like, okay, so we're going to stop covering Paramount content. It's like, we need to see some high-level departure. I think that's what needs to happen. I think someone big needs to be like, I'm not working with this anymore. We need people to start standing up. And I think that, maybe it's expecting too much from the people who make movies and make TV shows. But the fact of the matter is, if this goes through and Gunn stays on board, I'll be very disappointed in him. If this goes through and there's no one who's like, fuck this, I'm out, I'll be very disappointed. This is a problem. Look at how the media has already consolidated. The Washington Post has been hollowed out to a shell of its former self. The New York Times is cowering in fear of the administration retaliating in some way. And it's not and if you look at CBS, they've already completely bent the knee. It's disconcerting. And now it's, you got Bezos talking about buying out Condé Nast, the company that owns a bunch of magazines and periodicals and stuff like that, which is dangerous in and of itself. If that is under the control, the amount of things that they want the government to have its hand in is something that should alarm us all. And the fact that we're now sitting in a situation where we are seriously talking about the fact that 2 of the 5 biggest film production companies on the planet, or let's say in the United States, I don't know how it compares to market share of Chinese companies or companies in India, which also have massive film industries, let's say American. Because if we look at the top 5 film companies in the United States, it's very clearly, you go, Disney, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Universal, Lionsgate. Those are the big 5. And the idea that 2 of these are going to consolidate is something that, in a normal administration, the minute they brought this in, hey, we want to buy out Warner Brothers, they would be like, get the fuck out of our office. And look, or at minimum, there would be some judicial scrutiny about this deal. There would be some judicial scrutiny. There'd be something in the way that would be like, we're going to look into this a little bit, like the Activision-Microsoft deal, which shouldn't have gone through. I contend that was a bad decision. The Activision-Microsoft deal should not have gone through. And I also contend that the Fox-Disney deal probably shouldn't have gone through either. Probably shouldn't. The 20th Century Fox-Disney deal probably shouldn't have gone through. But at the same time, if Warner Brothers is owned by Paramount in its current form, and this is, again, assuming that they do this buyout before the divestiture of the companies and everything is as it is, if that's the case, we are looking at a very serious problem. This is a very serious situation that definitely needs to, be handled. Because this consolidation of media around one person is the kind of thing that it's like, why is this okay? Why are we okay with this? And the answer is we shouldn't be. This is something that is very, very, very dangerous. And I hope we can come up with a way to kind of do some kind of boycott or something to show them, like, right now we are in a very precarious situation with this whole thing where it's like we are mostly an oligarchy, but there are still small ways and small places that we can assert our ability as consumers to show them, hey, listen, you still have to contend with us. We still got to buy your shit for you to have this level of power over us. And I think that, like, hey, look, if it comes to Christmas time and it's like, hey, we're not going to buy any of the fucking bullshit toys that Nickelodeon is licensing, or we're not going to buy any of the bullshit, you know, that Warner Bros. Is licensing, like, don't buy DC toys. Like, if we're not going to, you know, or just cancel the streaming services, cancel Max, cancel Paramount Plus, and just be like, suck a dick, we're not going to do this anymore. I think that's something that could have a response where it's like, look, clearly the people aren't responding to this. We can't go through with this because we will have no money if that's the case. And it's like, yeah, what's the alternative? I can't think of another alternative that is a good way to handle this problem, which is a fundamental problem that needs to be addressed in this, you know, in this situation. Like it's clear that the federal government is going to let this go through, because even under the Biden administration, they let some sketchy deals go through. Because, like I said, the Activision deal should have never been approved. The Activision deal, like, the big issue with the Activision deal, and I think I've talked about this before, and for me at least, is the idea of innovation and how the Activision deal stifles innovation. Right now, Call of Duty is the biggest video game on the planet. And Sony has to make a choice when they're developing the PlayStation 6. Do we give a dev kit to Microsoft so they can determine what, you know, so they can make a version of this game for it, and therefore give them all the specs for this game, for this console? Or do we, you know, do we not do that? Do we just go without Call of Duty until the console is out? And that is kind of an important question, because if Microsoft has the console, all they got to do is be like, well, this is what they're doing. All right, well, we'll make ours slightly better or not better at all, but we'll just cheap out on the parts and make it slightly cheaper. And then at that point, it's like the thing that drives console innovation forward is the contest between the two companies. If the two companies are not in that contention, then what are we doing? And that is kind of the problem that we find ourselves in with this. Like, if we're going to be in a place where Paramount and Warner Brothers as studios are under the thumb of the same person who has veto power, or the same group that has veto power, what's that going to do for telling more stories? And the other thing about this too is that if you're someone who was excited to see the new Children of Blood and Bone movie, if this merger goes through, I would hold your breath that that movie, or I would bet that movie's not coming out, because they're going to use this as an opportunity to call any projects they don't agree with anymore. Like, I'm surprised it hasn't happened already with the first acquisition by Skydance, but it's the kind of thing where it's like that's what's going to end up happening. Like, we're looking at a situation, and don't even get me started on, like, the American Heroes channel being under that banner is dangerous, because, like, well, we could do an entire extra thing about the American Heroes channel and how that and the History Channel have kind of skewed the perception of American history for adults in a major way. Because it's like, if we're stuck in a, like, if you go and look at the American Heroes channel on any given day, almost always it's about World War II. It's about Nazis, and about how Americans defeated the Nazis, and how the Nazis were defeated, and how the Americans were the heroes, and that's it. Here's what Hitler was up to, here's what we stopped him from doing, here's 75 different variants of that, congratulations, come watch. Which is a thing, it's the American Heroes channel, and the issue is, it's like, there are few and far between wars where we were objectively on the correct side of. Like this, the War of 1812. But, like, you can't do the American Heroes channel about wars of expansion where we just went down and we're like, hey, we're just going to come out, fuck off if you live here already, it's ours now. Because that's something that, like, if you're going to tell that honestly, which no need to say they will or won't, we know, that's going to, you know, hold you back. And then there's also the issue of, like, when you get to, you know, more recently, it's like, since World War II, have we been in a just war? Like, have we been in a war that was justified? Be it Korea, be it Desert Storm, be it Vietnam, be it, you know, there's no way to really do that. It's fucked up that I'm saying it's on 9/11, but, like, it's the kind of thing where it's like, that in the hands of the propagandist is dangerous, and this deal would put that directly in the hands of propagandists, as if it wasn't enough already. It's like, no. They're trying to curate a version of American history, and now they're going to use this network to do it. It's all very questionable. It's all very disconcerting. It's all something we should be abundantly aware of. And I think it's going to come down to people organizing and coming up with some solution to say, we are not going to buy your shit if you're going to do this nonsense. But we'll wrap up there for today. Until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.